What is the top facts for Tom? Welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be doing 30 facts about France. So there is one more video that's coming out today, so stay tuned for that. I think I might be able to do more videos today, so it might be a little bit of a surprise. So yeah, let's get started. Another quote of the day: "The only time you fail is when you fall down and stay down," by Stephen Richards, who was an author. Alright, so let's move on to 30 facts about France. Let's get started. Number 1, France is the largest country in the European Union and sometimes called the Hexagon. France is the largest country in the European Union, covering a total of 551,695 square kilometers. However, it is only the third largest country in Europe, behind Ukraine and the European portion of Russia. Around a third, 31% of France is forest, and it is the fourth most forested country in the European Union, after Sweden, Finland, and Spain. The country is also sometimes referred to as a hexagon due to its six-sided shape. Number 2, France is the world's most popular tourist destination. It might be time to brush up on your French language skills, because France is the place to be according to the latest tourism figures. A whopping 89.3 million people visited the country in 2018, making it the most visited destination in the world. The country's capital, Paris, is also the third most visited in the world, behind Bangkok and London. Number 3, French was the official language of England for about 300 years. It's hard to imagine that French was the official language of England between 1066 and 1362. But after William the Conqueror led the Norman conquest and subsequent occupation of England in 1066, he introduced Anglo-Norman French to the nation. This was spoken by royalty, aristocrats, and high-powered officials, some of whom couldn't speak any English. In 1362, however, Parliament passed the Pleading in English Act, making English the official language of the government. This was because Norman French was used for pleadings, but was largely unknown to the common people of England, who had no knowledge of what was being said in court. Number 4, Louis the 19th, I think. It's in Roman numerals. There's an X and then one X. Yeah, I think that's 19. Sorry if I'm wrong, but I think it's 19. Louis the 19th was the king of France for just 20 minutes, the shortest ever reign. The French king only enjoyed 20 minutes of a royal fame after his father Charles X abdicated, leaving him to ascend the French throne in July 1830. After this brief period, Louis Antoine also abdicated in favor of his nephew, the Duke of Bordeaux, this makes him the joint shortest reigning monarch in history. He shares the astonishing record of Crown Prince Louis Felipe, who technically became king of Portugal after his father was assassinated, but he also died from a wound 20 minutes later. Oh, wow. Number 5, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternity, or Liberty, Equality, Fraternity is the national motto. The famous motto first appeared around the time of the Revolution, 1789 to 1799. It was written in constitutions on 1946 and 1958. Nowadays, you will see it on the coins, postage stamps, and government logos, often alongside Marion, who symbolizes the triumph of the Republic. The legal system in France is still largely based on the principles set down in Napoleon Bonaparte's Code Civil after the Revolution in the 1800s. Number 6. The French army was the first to use camouflage in 1915 or World War I. Now here's an interesting fact about France. The word camouflage actually comes from the French verb meaning to make up for the stage. This is because the French army were the first to create a dedicated camouflage unit in 1915. Number 7. Number 7, I'm going to skip it. It's just a little bit too weird. Number 8, the French invented tin cans, the hairdryer, and the hot air balloon. It turns out we have the French to thank for many of the useful inventions we know and love today. For instance, French inventor Nicolas Appert came up with the idea to use sealed glass jars placed in boiling water to preserve food in 1809. Pierre Durand later invented a tin can. Braille was also developed by Louis Braille, who was blind as a child. Meanwhile, physician René Laennec invented a stethoscope at a hospital in Paris in 1816, and Alexander Ferdinand Godefroy patented the world's first hair dryer in 1888. The majestical hot air balloon was also pioneered by the Montgolfier brothers, Joseph and Etienne, who unveiled the world's first public display of an untethered balloon in 1783. Number 9. France was the first country in the world to ban supermarkets from throwing away food. Now, in February 2016, France became the first country in the world to ban supermarkets from throwing away or destroying unsold food. Stores must now donate surplus groceries to food banks and charities. Supermarkets larger than 4,305 square feet, which are caught binning good quality food approaching its best before date, face hefty fines of up to 75,000 euros, or 2 years of imprisonment. Furthermore, all French supermarkets are also banned from destroying food as a way to prevent dumpster divers from foraging in garbage bins. Number 10. The first public screening of a movie was by the French Lumiere in 1895. The Lumiere brothers, Auguste, Marie, Louis, Nicolas, and Louis Jean, were famous for their cinematograph motion picture system and the short films they produced between 1895 and 1905. The famed duo held the world's first public movie screening on December 28, 1895 at the Grand Café in Paris. Their directorial debut was La Sortie des Avoirs de Usine Lumière, workers leaving the Lumiere factory. The 5-second long black and white film simply showed workers leaving the Lumiere factory and left the audience completely flabbergasted. In 1895, Louis Lumiere supposedly said that cinema is an invention without a future. Number 11. The oldest person who ever lived was a French woman named Jean-Louis Calment. The greatest fully authenticated age to which any human has ever lived is 122 years and 164 days. Jean-Louis Calment was born in France on February 21st, 1875, and died on August 4th, 1997. She lived through the opening of the Eiffel Tower in 1889, 2 world wars, and the invention of television, the modern motor car, and airplanes. Interestingly, life expectancy for women in France stood at 85.3 years in 2018 and 79.4 years for men. France also ranks 14th in the world for life expectancy, with men and women living on average until 83 years old. Number 12, I'm going to skip it because it's a little bit too weird. Number 13, France has more Nobel Prize winners in literature than any other country, with 15 French individuals winning the prestigious award since 1901. It's fair to say that France has produced some of the world's most influential writers and thinkers. French poet and essayist Sully Prudhomme became the first ever winner of the award that year. Among France's most celebrated poets, novelists, and writers are René Descartes, Voltaire, Charles Baudelaire, Blaise Pascal, Gustave Flaubert, and Victor Hugo. Number 14. Europe's highest mountain is Mont Blanc in the French Alps. Standing at a height of 4,807 meters, Mont Blanc is officially the highest mountain in Europe. It takes an arduous 10 to 12 hours to climb to the summit. But if you're not up for that, you can take a leisurely 20-minute trip on Europe's highest cable car on the nearby Aiguille du Midi to get a brilliant view from the top. Discover other amazing places to visit in France. Number 15. The world's first artificial heart transplant and face transplant both took place in France. The heart transplant occurred in December 2013 at the Georges Pompidou Hospital in Paris. The bioprosthetic device, which mimics a real heart's contraction, is powered by an external lithium-ion battery and is about 3 times the weight of a real organ. French surgeons were also the first to perform a face transplant in 2005. Number 16. The Louvre is the most visited museum in the world, with a whopping 9.6 million visitors in 2019. The famous Louvre is the most visited museum in the world. Located in the heart of Paris, the Magnificent Museum is home to around 38,000 works of art and artifacts dating back to prehistoric times. These include the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, and IMP's famous glass Louvre pyramid, which sits in a courtyard. Unsurprising, the Louvre is one of the busiest places to visit in Paris. So I actually have been to Paris. I forgot to mention I've been to Paris, and the Eiffel Tower is amazing. It was actually raining there when we went to the Eiffel Tower, and I did visit the Louvre, but I did not go inside it. I just saw the outside of it, and it's really cool. And I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure we visited the Eiffel Tower for sure, and we visited the Louvre. I don't know what else we visited, actually. I don't remember what else we visited, but I think I might have to check on the trip that we did. Number 17, French gastronomy was awarded UNESCO World Heritage status in 2010. France is famous for its exquisite food, which was added to the list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2010. Experts describe the importance of French gastronomy as a social custom aimed at celebrating the most important moments in the lives of individuals and groups, as well as emphasizing togetherness for its function of bringing friends and family closer together and strengthening social ties. Number 18. France produced the most expensive bottle of wine in the world. Of course, France isn't only famous for its cuisine. The country also produces some of the best wines in the world, not to mention expensive. A 73-year-old bottle of French Burgundy became the most expensive bottle of wine ever sold at auction, fetching an eye-popping $558,000. The bottle of 1945 Romanée Conti was sold to a private Asian collector at Sotheby's for more than 17 times its original estimate of $32,000. Number 19. You might get a fish stuck on your back on April Fool's Day. If you happen to be in the country on April 1st, don't be surprised if children try to stick paper fish to your back and call you a poison d'Avril or April fish. This tradition is supposed to have started in the 16th century when King Charles XIX of France charged the calendar, and those who continued to celebrate the end of the year at the end of March were ridiculed as fools. Number 20. The French eat about 30,000 tons of escargot or snails a year. According to Reuters, the French eat about 30,000 metric tons of escargot yearly. However, around 2/3 of all the snails eaten in France come from Eastern Europe and the Balkans. So if you've eaten snails in France, chances are they have traveled a long way to get to your plate. The classic French delicacy served with garlic, parsley, and butter remains a popular staple of French cuisine. Number 21. Live snails must have a ticket to ride high-speed trains. No, we're not making this up, we promise. According to French law, it is against the law to carry live snails on a high-speed train in France without them having their own tickets. In fact, any domesticated animal under 5 kilograms must be a paying passenger. In 2008, a French man was actually fined when a ticket inspector caught carrying the critters on board a TGV. Luckily, France's state-owned rail company SNCF ended up waiving the fine. And that's a really weird thing. Number 22. The croissant was actually invented in Austria in the 13th century. Believe it or not, the beloved French pastry that we all know and love is actually an adaptation of kipferl, a Viennese specialty which dates back to the 13th century. As the story goes, Austrian artillery officer August Zang founded a Viennese bakery in Paris in 1839. He began serving the kipferl and it quickly became popular with the locals. So much so, in fact, that French imitators began creating their own French version, which they called the croissant due to its crescent shape. And the rest, as they say, is history. Wow, I did not know that. Number 23. Turning a baguette upside down is seen as unlucky in France. According to folklore, placing a baguette or loaf of bread on the table upside down puts the people around you at risk of misfortune or worse. This quirky superstition supposedly stems from medieval times when executioners were allowed to grab things in shops without paying for them. Hence, bakers would leave an overturned loaf of bread out for them. If you come to touch a bread or place a loaf upside down yourself, you then have to mark it with the cross before eating it to ward off bad luck. Wow. Number 24. France produces around 1.7 million tons of cheese a year in around 1,600 varieties. To say the French love to eat cheese is a huge understatement. The dairy munching nation produced around 1.7 million tons of cow's milk cheese in 2018 alone. There are also around 1,600 distinct types of French cheese to try, which are grouped into 8 categories. Thankfully, the French don't keep it all for themselves. In 2018, the country exported more than 679,000 tons of cheese, while almost 895,000 tons were sold on the French retail market in 2017. Number 25. Number 25, I'm going to skip it. So we skipped 3 facts because they are a little bit too weird. So, number 26. Paris Gare du Nord is Europe's busiest railway station. While on the subject of trains, Gare du Nord in Paris is the busiest railway station in Europe and in the world outside of Japan. More than 214 million passengers pass through it each year. The original station was built in 1846 but became too small for operations and was therefore demolished and rebuilt in 1889. Further extensions were carried out between the 1930s and 1960s. The station is also due to undergo more expansion work in order to prepare for the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. This is to increase its capacity for an additional 200,000 daily passengers. Number 27. The French rail network is the second largest in Europe, 9th biggest in the world. At a total of 29,000 kilometers, the French railway network is the second biggest in Europe and the 9th biggest in the world. France was one of the world's first countries to utilize high-speed technology. The state-owned Société Nationale des Chemins de Fer Français, SNCF, introduced the TGV high-speed rail in 1981. France's high-speed long-distance passenger services are called as Train à Grande Vitesse, or TGV. And the standard long-distance passenger services are called Intercites. The country's current high-speed network exceeds a length of 1,550 kilometers. The Tours Bordeaux high-speed rail project adds another 302 kilometers onto the network. Number 28. The world's greatest cycle race, the Tour de France, is more than 100 years old. On July 1st, 1903, 60 cyclists embarked on the first ever Tour de France from the Parisian suburb of Montgeron. More than 100 years later, the event has grown to become the world's greatest cycle race, with around 198 cyclists racing some 3,200 kilometers or 2,000 miles, primarily around France in a series of stages over 23 days. The 2013 Tour de France was the 100th edition of the Tour de France, and around 15 million spectators lined up to watch the 21-stage course for the centennial celebration. Number 29. The tradition of wearing a white dress originated in France in 1499. Most brides dream of walking down the aisle in a beautiful white wedding gown, but until the 1900s, they rarely bought a special wedding dress and opted for their best outfit instead. The public tradition actually originated in France with the marriage of Anne of Brittany and Louis XII of France in 1499. She wore a white dress to the wedding, marking the start of the popular Western custom. However, it wasn't until 1840 when Queen Victoria married Prince Albert and that the white dress really took off in popularity and the tradition was cemented. And at number 30, the last one, at least 35% of all music played on private radio stations must be French. If you're not a fan of French music, then you might want to stick with your own playlist rather than tuning into the local radio station. After all, more than a third of the songs you will hear will be French. The French government initially introduced a 40% quote in 1994 to protect France from what the government considered the Anglo-Saxon cultural invasion. However, after a 24-hour rebellious boycott by French radio stations, French MPs voted in favor of reducing the quota to 35%. In 2016, radio stations specializing in foreign music also have a 50% quota. So top end, that is all 30 facts about France, and this video actually took a lot more longer than I thought it would be, But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so you make sure to receive every single video when I post. And make sure to like my videos and share the videos to your friends and family if they're interested in my videos. And make sure to comment on my videos because I would love to see your comments and what you think about my videos. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye, Top Fam.